It's important also in defining what the standard is for defining unfitness that you look at jurisdictional standards. Susie had mentioned earlier about whether or not the post 10 remain on the table, and they do. A great case for you to read, for those of you who operate in California, is Sager versus County of Yuba. I mentioned it yesterday. A former practice partner of mine, Gordon Wolf, was the psychologist in Sager versus County of Yuba. And the court held that Dr. Wolf had, and this is an important piece of this one, Susan, that he had found that the person did have a diagnosable mental condition. He didn't initially spell it out in his report, but he spelled it out in his testimony. It was in Axis 2, I believe. And the ramifications or manifestations of that Axis 2 disorder implicated the post-Big Ten. Well, the defense in Sager versus County of Yuba, or actually in this case the plaintiff's attorney in Sager versus County of Yuba, the employee's attorney, argued unconvincingly to the court that, that because the 1031F and the Big Ten, for post 10, were not repeated in the position description, that he wasn't obligated to meet those standards, that he was only obligated to meet them when he was hired, that that's a hiring standard. It's not an ongoing qualification standard. The court in Sager versus County of Yuba said, give me a break. And here's what they wrote. The Section 1031 standards, and they say throughout their decision, and that includes the 9055 post regulations, must also be maintained throughout a peace officer's career. Now that does not entitle you, there's no court case that I know of that entitles you to make that decision on a non-medical basis. Sager's decision was made on the basis of a medical condition that implicated the post guideline. So I don't think you can reach that same one on a purely non-medical basis. Goes on to say, must be maintained throughout a peace officer's career. At least two of the standards in 1031F reflect the fundamental law enforcement qualifications: good moral character and mental fitness. If Sager's position is correct, an officer who has lost his moral compass would be immune from these standards and only subject to a moral character standard if the applicable job description in that department reiterated that standard as a defined duty of that classification of officers. That absurd result highlights the flaw in Sager's position. Isn't that beautifully stated? Yeah.